All right. Thank you everyone for coming. We're going to get started. Hopefully some more folks will join us as we go through some housekeeping. So this is the How to Go Solar and Storage presentation. We are going to be covering a variety of exciting topics related to solar power and home energy storage today. So up on the agenda, first we're going to be talking about how solar works. We'll cover how the solar panels function, what different materials are within them, and what are the different devices you need when you get solar on your home. We'll then go through some of the qualifications of deciding whether or not your home is viable for solar, because there are some aspects that can make it so solar is not a great option for you. And then we will talk about the exciting topic of home energy storage and how you can have power during a power outage. We'll then go through the available incentives to residents of Oregon before discussing how you can get started on your solar journey. So this presentation is presented by Solar Oregon. My name is Abby Jager. I am a program manager here at Solar Oregon. I use she, her pronouns. Solar Oregon is a educational nonprofit that focuses on outreach and community advocacy around solar power. We do a variety of different presentations and events, including our homework presentation, which is this one right here, the How to Go Solar and Storage presentation, as well as solar showcases and tours. We are a member-based nonprofit, and you can support our work by donating or becoming a member today. You can also follow us on social media and at Eventbrite at Solar Oregon. It's a great way to find out about all our upcoming events. One of our upcoming events is our annual Go Zero Tour. The Go Zero Tour is a zero energy home tour presented by Energy Trust of Oregon, where we showcase a variety of zero energy homes and businesses throughout the state of Oregon. That will be taking place on October 14th, and tickets are on sale now at Eventbrite. So buy your tickets today. It's currently early bird tickets, so you can save a little bit of money too. So if you are really curious about seeing some solar and storage in action after this presentation, it would be a great event to check out and talk to some other homeowners about what the process was like for them in choosing to go solar. Now, this presentation is sponsored by the Energy Trust of Oregon. The Energy Trust of Oregon is an independent nonprofit funded through the state legislature that focuses on providing access to affordable energy for Oregonians. They serve 1.6 million customers of Portland General Electric, Pacific Power, Northwest Natural Gas, Cascade Natural, and Avista. Thank you, Energy Trust of Oregon, for your sponsorship and support. Now, for the presentation, you should see a Q&A button down at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to put any questions or any issues you're having in there, and that way, and at the end of the presentation, I will be going through those and answering. There's no need to wait as far as putting your questions in. As soon as you have them, you can put them in, and I'll go through them at the end. Now, before we get started, I was going to do polls, but they are not preloaded, so we will not be doing polls today. So we'll just go right into the presentation. So now, first up, how solar works. So this is a diagram of a very simple solar system. You have the photovoltaic or PV panel, which when the sun hits, produces a volt of electricity. This electricity goes into the inverter or microinverter, which transitions electricity from direct current DC electricity to alternate current or AC electricity, which is what your home runs on. From there, it goes into your home electrical panel where it goes to power all the lights and appliances and Wi-Fi and even charge your electrical vehicle, your electric car within your home, and basically anything you use power for. If at any given point in time your solar system is generating more power than you are using, it goes out to your utility meter and back onto the grid to be used by your neighbors. This is called a grid-tied solar system. It also works in the opposite direction. So if at any point you are not producing enough power for what your home needs, you also can draw power from the grid. And we'll be talking more about the benefits of a grid-tied system very soon. Now, here's the first piece that equipment you'd get other than the solar panels, and that is the inverter. There are two different options as far as inverters go, and both are installed frequently throughout Oregon. You have the inverter picture on the left, which takes in all the power from all the panels at once and converts it into AC electricity. That's this white box right here. And then you also have microinverters, which are these black boxes, and those are actually placed on the underside of the solar panels. Instead of taking in all the power at once, they only take in the power from 1 to 2 solar panels at a time. So instead of having just one of them on the outside of your home, you might have as if you have 10 solar panels, you might have 10 microinverters. It just really depends on your system. Both are great options that are installed frequently throughout Oregon and are a great thing. And really just depends on the needs of your solar system, and your solar contractor is a great person to ask about which one is right for you, as they will definitely have a suggestion. Now mounting. So this is how your solar panels are physically attached in order to stay where they are. In dense urban areas, roof mounting is by far the most common, and that is just when your solar panels are on your roof, they use a variety of different racking things. Your roof is still completely weatherized and weatherproof, and you will have no issues with leaks or anything like that due to the mounting on your roof. And it's just another system. If you have a little bit more space, another option is ground mounting, which is what is pictured here on the right. That is when you just kind of mount your solar panels out in an empty field. That is a great option, as I said, if you have more space, but it can also be a little bit more expensive, as you do have to then run conduit from the ground mount in your yard or field or wherever out in back to your home in order to send the power there. Yeah. Another great option are solar roof tiles. This is a solar system that is your roof. There are several brands available. However, it is much newer tech and therefore more expensive. Price declines have been predicted for a very long time, but they are unpredictable, and there's no guarantee that the price decline is going to happen anytime soon. So if this is something you're interested in, you may end up paying much more or end up waiting a long time for that price decline. It does do all the things roofs do. It protects your house from rain and snow and ice. However, it is also solar panels, as I said. So it does both at once, and you wouldn't have the panels on top of your roof like in this last picture. Now net metering. So as I said here, we're talking a lot about grid-tied solar systems. So that's when you can still draw power from the grid when you need it, and export power. And the way that works is through a system called net metering. So we're going to look at 2 case studies and a sample power bill to explain how this process works. So first, on the 2 case studies, we're going to start by looking at a typical sunny summer month. So in the typical sunny summer month, your solar system is going to be producing at its max capacity. We're getting a ton of sun here in Oregon. And there's no reason why your solar panels wouldn't be producing a ton of power. That is being shown by this orange bar right here. However, your annual consumption of what you're needing power you need to use in order to power your home is less than the amount your solar panels are producing. So you earn net metering credits throughout the sunny summer months. That's what this green arrow is showing. So then in the winter months, so it's winter, it's not quite as sunny, there's a lot more clouds, the days are shorter, you just are not producing as much power. This amount of solar you are producing is much lower. However, the amount you are consuming from the grid has stayed about the same. That means you have to instead draw power from the grid. However, back in the sunny summer months, you earned net metering credits. So those credits offset your consumption in the winter months, meaning that you still don't have to pay for the power you are drawing from the grid because you earn those credits. Now, if we look at this energy bill, we can see how this functions in process. So here we can see the start reading on the meeting at the beginning of the month and the reading at the end of the month. And we can see the difference between that. Here it's negative 327 kilowatt hours. That means this power account earned a net metering credit of 327 kilowatt hours that have been added to their year-to-date banked excess credit generation, and their billable kilowatt hours are 0. However, if we also look over at this account charges, you'll notice that this bill that they are still due is not zero. That's because in order to be a grid tied system, you still have to pay in order to be tied to the grid. That base charge is about $11 that just goes to grid maintenance, and it's what you pay for that, as well as about $1.63 in taxes and fees. So that's how that works. It is important to note that your net metering credits roll over from month to month. So that's how you build up all your credits in the summer and then deplete them all in the winter. However, they do not roll over from year to year. So the net metering year begins in and ends in March. And so you get all spring and summer to build up those credits and all year to deplete them. And if you have any excess credits left over at the end of the year, you essentially donate them to low income households and community solar in order for, or not donating them to community solar, but programs like that in order, and you can't build them up forever. So that's how that works. Now, an important question when considering getting a solar system is how big your solar system will be. This is based heavily on how much electricity you consume, as well as your available space, budget, and aesthetic considerations. The size of a solar system is measured in kilowatts, and the average size in Oregon is about 8 kilowatts. The size, as I said, net metering credits do not roll over year to year, so you want to size your system to meet but not exceed the amount of power you use in any given year. Your solar contractor will take a look at your recent power bills in order to see about what your average usage is and should hopefully be able to size your system accordingly. It is very important you let them know if you have any major life changes coming up, whether that's transitioning to electric appliances, buying an electric car, or having someone move in or out of your home, as all of those will impact the size of your system and how much electricity you consume during a given time period. Now the question is your home great for solar? Okay, sorry about that. So a common question we get is whether or not you can get solar in Oregon, and the answer is definitely yes. Here we have a great little graphic that shows you how, as long as your solar panels are not on the north side of your home, pretty much, you will always get sun. At the summer solstice is the highest point in the sky for the sun. At the winter, it's at the lowest. So we can see that as long as you're in between those two arcs on the south side, you always can get solar. Ideally, you can install solar on a south-facing roof plane or south-facing ground mount. However, solar is frequently installed on east and west facing planes as well. The only ones that really don't get it are north-facing planes. Now, the next consideration is shade. Solar needs sun in order to be functional and work well. And so if you have big shady trees shading your home, those are great for cooling your home. And we definitely don't want to cut down all the nice old trees in order to get solar. But unfortunately, it means you might not be a great candidate for solar. Those trees really decrease your solar production and just might make you unable to access certain incentives as you have to reach a certain solar resource and you don't reach that threshold. Now, the next consideration is roof complexity. So here in these images, we can see both a very complex roof and a very simple roof on the right. If you have on this very complex roof on the left, you can see that there's lots of south-facing roof planes. However, they're all very small, and sizing a system to that would make it much more complicated and lead to increased cost in conduit and racking material. However, on this simple roof plane, you could have just one large rectangular solar array, which would make things much easier and allow you to have a larger system overall. Then one of the biggest considerations when considering going solar is your roof conditioner age. We recommend that you have at least 20 years of roof life left, as in order to get a new roof, once you have solar installed, you have to pay to have the solar panels removed and reinstalled, and it's frequent that solar panels can get damaged in that process, again, leading to extra costs. If you have an old roof, we recommend that you wait until after you re-roof in order to get solar. Next is your roof structure. So solar panels obviously add a little bit of extra weight when they're mounted on your roof. So your roof needs to have the needed supports. If it has trusses, like pictured here on the left, and rafters, you can pass even the most strictest of inspections and protocols. However, a lot of the older homes that we have here in the Portland area just have rafters, which do not support a solar array without added support. Your solar contractor can meet with you about drawing up some plans to have trusses or other engineering supports added. However, this will again lead to extra costs if needed. So it is just something to keep in mind. Now we're going to move on and talk about why you may want to get storage as well as solar for your home. So the point of getting home energy storage is energy resilience. Solar and storage are complementary technologies that make each other more effective. Without home energy storage, you cannot use solar during a power outage. As I said, they are complementary technologies, so you can have your home energy storage in the form of a battery in your garage and solar on your roof. Your battery allows you to use power during an outage, and your solar charges your battery for free and can recharge it depending on the outage that is being experienced. Now, why do you want to have energy resilience? Well, it depends on the type of outage you want to prepare for. The most short, frequent outages are usually caused by storms or squirrels. However, beginning in 2020, Oregon had its first public safety power shutoff, where the power companies actually shut off the power to certain areas in order to decrease fire risks. So that is also a concern, as well as the Cascadia seismic hazard, which is the earthquake event that has been predicted for Oregon. When the Cascadia seismic hazard occurs, it is predicted that the Portland area might not have power for up to 3 weeks, and the coast cannot have it power for even longer. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. However, it is also important to temper your expectations about how long your energy storage can last, which we will be discussing very soon as well. Now, when it comes to picking a battery, there are many different brands and chemistries, and installers may specialize in specific ones. So if there's a specific battery you want, you want to find an installer who does install that specific battery. Once you have one type of battery, you cannot mix and match them. So you can mix and match your solar brands and your battery brands. You don't need to get Tesla solar panels and a Tesla Powerwall battery. However, if you have a Tesla Powerwall battery, you cannot also add an Enphase battery as an example. So that is just one more consideration. And here on the left, we have some different batteries that you could get. Now, as I said, you have to temper your expectations about how long a battery can last. What a lot of people choose to do is backing up your entire home for a meaningful amount of time can be very cost prohibitive and very, very expensive. So instead, they choose to do a partial backup where they choose just specific outlets or areas to send power to. This is done by the creation of an essential loads panel where breakers are physically moved to an additional new panel. This does add complexity and cost, but can lead to you having power for a longer period of time in the event of an outage. When deciding what to move to an essential load panel, it's a question of what needs power and for how long. Things like a dryer or a hot tub would deplete your battery very, very fast. However, something like a few outlets, you could leave running for longer. You still probably want to be able to temper expectations, but most people choose to keep a few outlets, some lights in their fridge powered in order to have food, some outlets for charging, and then lights in common areas. Now, an important question is when you install storage. If you install your solar panels and storage at the same time, you can save a lot of money because you are able to access more incentives, and your solar contractor can maximize your system in order to build the storage in from the start. Storage can be added to an existing solar system, but there can be an extra cost and you might not be able to access all available incentives. If you're getting solar and you think you might want to add storage in the future, it's a great idea to talk to your contractor about it so that they can make sure your system is ready for a storage addition. Now, another thing to consider is that batteries require space. Ideally, they are placed near an electrical panel, but they cannot be in a small enclosed area like a crawl space or cupboard. They can be installed outdoors. However, there can be aesthetic considerations. And again, ideally, they are near the electrical panel in order to be most efficient and most cost effective in terms of the amount of conduit you need to run. Again, here's just some photos of two batteries in a garage space. Now, all these different technologies can get very expensive. So let's talk about the different incentives you can access in order to help make them a little bit more affordable. First up, we have the Solar Investment Tax Credit, also known as the ITC. This covers 30% of the total cost of your system as a dollar for dollar tax credit. The ITC, so first off, I am not a tax professional. This is not official tax advice. As with any tax issue, please consult a professional with any questions. However, this is what I know about the ITC. So this is a 30% dollar for dollar incentive. So say your solar panels cost $100, you would get a $30 credit on your taxes, which is a really great deal overall. It applies to both solar and storage and can be claimed over several years if you do not have enough tax liability. It's very easy to claim. You ultimately are in charge of claiming it for yourself. That is a difference between this and some of the other incentives we will cover. And we highly recommend you speak to a tax professional, as there are lots of misconceptions about what this can cover that are not necessarily true. One of those is that you can use the investment tax credit to cover re-roofing, which is false. Next up, we have the incentives offered by the Energy Trust of Oregon. These incentives you can only access if your power is from either PGE or Pacific Power, and you used a Energy Trust Trade Ally contractor, which is a contractor that has been vetted by the Energy Trust of Oregon, so they know you're getting good work. We will be talking more about how to find a Trade Ally contractor at the end of the presentation. The Energy Trust of Oregon has two different incentives. Their first is for solar, so you can get a $400 credit if you have PGE and $450 if you have Pacific Power. If you are installing storage either with your solar system or after the fact, you can get $250 kilowatt hour credit up to $3,000 maximum per home for energy storage. The most common size of battery in Oregon is about 10 kilowatt hours, so you'd get 2,500, I believe, for that size battery. And contrary to the ITC, this is something that your solar contractor would apply for on your behalf, and you would see on your final bill as a discount. Now, Energy Trust of Oregon also offers a program called Solar Within Reach for low and middle and moderate income folks. For Pacific Power customers, this provides $1 per watt up to $6,000, and for PGE customers, it's again $1 per watt up to $6,000. The household of 4 income threshold is very high at 112,860, so you might qualify for it even if you don't consider yourself low income, and it can significantly reduce the cost of solar and is a great program to access. Now, the next program is the Solar and Storage Rebate offered by the Oregon Department of Energy. This is, again, something that your contractor would put in for you on your behalf, and it was something that was just recently refunded by the Oregon legislature, so thank you to them. This offers a max $5,000 discount for solar and up to $2,500 max for storage. However, the storage must be installed at the same time as solar. So if you already have a solar system and you're adding storage, you would not be eligible for this incentive. It was just currently the only available funds are for low and moderate income folks, LMI folks. However, was recently refunded for everyone, but those funds have not yet been released for consideration or for bidding. Definitely talk to your solar contractor if you're interested in trying to access those funds. Now we're going to go through some example budgets so that you can get a sense of how much these solar systems might cost you. However, these are just examples, and your system could be very different as solar is very customizable to your specific needs and wants. So first, I'm going to go through some of the reasons your costs may vary. So first is the size of the system, whether or not you need to re-roof, your structural analysis as far as roof goes and possible upgrades to that, and how many incentives you're able to access. And then you have the reasons cost may vary for storage is whether or not you install it with solar or later, the number of batteries you are getting, whether or not you are creating a central loads panel or backing up your entire home, if you're installing your batteries far or near from your electrical panel, and again, how many incentives you can access. Now, here's a sample budget for just a solar installation. So here we're looking at an 8 kilowatt solar system, which is the average size for Oregon, and the cost across the board before incentives is about $32,000. Based on which power company you have and if you can access the Solar Within Reach Energy Trust incentive, you can then decrease that cost by $450 or $400, or if you're an LMI customer, $6,000 or $5,400. This has now been updated with the funds for the state rebate as they've been if they've been sent out. So if you have access to state rebate and you're a non-LMI customer, you can get a decrease up to $1,600 if you're LMI up to that $5,000 that I mentioned earlier. That takes your out-of-pocket cost to you as a customer to about $30,000 or $21,000 if you're LMI. From there, you can then claim the 30% federal tax credit for another discount, and that leads to your final cost to your customer before energy savings to about $21,000 for non-LMI customers and about $15,000 for LMI customers. Now, if you're installing solar and storage at the same time, so we have an 8 kilowatt solar system and a 10 kilowatt hour solar storage, or 10 kilowatt hour storage system. So that means your cost before incentives is $44,000 across the board. You can then access the new Energy Trust of Oregon incentive for home energy storage, which is $2,950 or $2,900 if you're a PGE customer. And then if you can access that solar within reach is $16,000 or $15,400. You then have those state rebates I mentioned, and again, this is updated to include the non-LMI funds as well, even though those have not been released yet. That takes it to $4,100, another discount across the board. And then the out-of-pocket cost to customer is about $37,000 or $24,000 on the LMI side. You then claim the 30% federal tax credit, taking your final cost down to about $25,000 or $17,000 for LMI customers. Our last budget is if you're adding storage after solar. So we have both the cost of your solar system and your predicted cost of adding your 10 kilowatt hour storage system later. So the cost of solar is $32,000. However, the cost of adding a battery after is an additional $23,000. You can access all the Energy Trust storage, solar and storage incentives as we previously discussed. However, you're only able to access the solar Oregon Department of Energy rebate. You cannot access the storage rebate. So that means your out-of-pocket cost is $50,450 or if about $38,000 if you're LMI. From there, you can then claim that 30% federal tax credit, bringing your total final cost before energy savings to $35,000 or about $26,000. Now, those are some pretty big numbers that I just gave you, so it makes sense if you're a little bit taken aback. However, there are many different ways to finance your solar system, and financing is very common. Loans do exist that are specifically tailored to solar, and your installer may even have a financing partner, or you can reach out to a bank or credit union. If it is a loan tailored for solar, sometimes you can even refinance the loan after claiming your federal tax credit. Now, after all this information, how do you get started? So as I mentioned, The Trade Allies of Energy Trust of Oregon are a great place to start. They are rigorously qualified, approved to offer Energy Trust of Oregon incentives, and familiar with all Energy Trust design and installation requirements. And you have to use a trade ally in order to access those incentives. Energy Trust of Oregon has a handy dandy tool known as the Energy Trust Request Custom Analysis Bid tool that allows you to receive up to 3 quotes for free of charge from a trade ally contractor. It's very easy to use, and I'll be sticking a link to it in the chat in just a minute. This is a great option and can get you 3 quotes without you having to do anything except supply a little bit of information. Once you have selected a solar contractor, you can move on to installation. Your contractor completes all the paperwork for you except for the tax credit. Permitting can take a very long time. They're still experiencing a number of delays on the permitting front. In the Portland area, it can take up to a year to get permits still. However, in some areas like East Salem or Gresham, I know that is closer to that 2-month mark. Once you have your permits, installation is very quick and only takes 1 or 2 days, and your contractor will manage all inspections and being sure you're interconnected to the grid. So there should be no worries whatsoever, nothing for you to worry about. So now that I've gone through all that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stick those links in the chat and also answer your questions. We don't have any questions yet. I'm going to grab that link to put in the chat for you all. Again, please use the Q&A function and happy to answer any questions you all have. And thank you so much for coming. Thank you again for coming. I'm not seeing any questions come in, so I've just put those links in the chat. I'll give everyone a few moments to grab them, and then I will end the webinar. A recording will be posted later this week, so if you want to review anything, you can go on there. And oh, we got one question. Can solar fully offset my electrical costs? Yes. So when you have a grid-tied system here in Oregon, the way those net metering credits work is if you size your system correctly to meet and not exceed your electrical bill, it will fully cover all your electrical costs and you will essentially be paying $0 for your power. You will still have that $12.63 bill, and that's what you pay for being a grid tied system. However, the average utility bill in Oregon is about $70. So comparatively, that is still really good. And the price of your solar power is not going to go up once you have it installed, unlike power. So that is a great consideration. I'm happy to stay on longer if anyone has any other questions. But thank you all for coming.